intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Hello, I'm Lisa Gavin, and I'm here today to talk about next level coaching and our new program, Coach to Cash. So excited to be here. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and get going and tell you a little bit about myself and my company and my partner. I am Lisa Gavin, my husband and business partner for the last 20 years. Vince Gavin have a fantastic company called Next Level Coaching. And Next Level Coaching has really been, I would like to say, innovative in terms of the understanding of what people need. Right now, we're facing a time where people are individually struggling to get the right answers. We're in a social media age, and the social media age gives you so much information and sometimes too much information. And so what it means is that we don't always know what are the reliable sources to get good information when it comes to our financial lives. I am a strong proponent of what I call financial life coaching. And so we get coached in every other area of our life. If we want to be great in sports, then we get coached in sports. But we don't even get taught proper financial literacy in schools. Our grammar schools don't teach real world skills when it comes to finances. Colleges don't even teach enough when it comes to skills that can be used on a regular basis to improve our financial lives. Most of us come out of school and we're still struggling with either bad credit or bad information and not enough information to understand how to build and develop ourselves. And so after 20 years in business and helping over 25,000 individuals, we decided to do something about that. And so what we wanted to do was to create a coaching formula, meaning that we can help move people from where they are to where they need to be. And so we created a program called Coach to Cash. We want to be able to coach you to get some cash. Now, the question is, how do you do that? It takes a really clear understanding first of where you are financially, where you are in terms of your credit life, where you are in terms of your credit score, and where you are in terms of your financial positioning, your income and the things that you do. And are you making enough money? And are you optimizing that money? And so once you get a really clear picture of where you are, then and only then can you create a game plan of where you're going. And so the struggle is that most folks don't even have a realistic understanding or even the mechanisms to measure where they currently are, because you're trying to figure out what metrics are you even using to measure where you are. And so that's where it starts, is taking the proper measurement. And so when we work with our clients in the Coach to Cash program, the very first thing we start with is an assessment of your credit profile and where you are and what else you need to be doing and where those weak spots are. The other thing that we've done very well in this program is create assessments. We create our own assessments that give you the different points that you need to measure. And so you can take this assessment, answer a few questions, and it actually gives you a score. And this score tells you, am I strong in these areas? Am I weak in these areas? So that you understand what things you need to focus on, and you know where you need to concentrate your energies and your efforts. And that's the starting place. And once you have that, you would be surprised how much having a plan changes everything. Because when you have things to measure, when you have things that you know that you need to do, when you've mapped out the time frame that is going to take to actually achieve those things, and that time frame is not based on a Harry Potter magic wand. Okay, that time frame is based on input from experts that have been doing this, like I said, for 20 years and have helped over 25,000 people map out their issues and concerns. Let me tell you, these days, trying to have a plan is the most important thing that you can do. Either you plan or you simply plan to fail. And so I know there's another way that that's quoted, but basically that's the point. Either you get to planning or you just plan to fail. And so having people give you input on that plan, having another set of eyes, having another set of ears, having another brain help you to think through what you're doing and what you need to do based on seeing plenty of other people who have been through your situation, I'm telling you, it's absolutely eye-opening. And, frankly, I think that we kind of got sick and tired of people getting bad advice from bad sources. Again, social media is just inundated with people just selling. And I cannot tell you that I feel confident that a lot of those people have your best interest at heart. A lot of those people, just because social media is so convenient, a lot of those people just sell you because now they have the megaphone to scream out to you and say, hey, come trust me and buy my product. And a lot of those people do not even have a website. A lot of those people do not have any type of information that they can give you that verifies that they have been very good at what they do. And so my fear is that, people just cannot filter through all of the noise and don't have experts that they can rely on. And in fact, a lot of people, sadly so, get their advice from family and friends. There is a big problem with family and friend advice when it comes to your finances, because chances are that that advice is loaded with dysfunctions, probably their own dysfunctions, their own failures. So they'll be the first people to tell you, oh, you can't do that. Oh, that won't work. Oh, I don't know why you think that that's true. And it's because they have or may potentially have limited knowledge. So if it's not their professional wheelhouse, if they are not in the financial arena where you feel that they can properly advise you, be very cautious about family and friend advice. But unfortunately, family and friend advice is probably the number one place that people get their financial advice. In fact, I read a survey that said 35%, which is the largest percent of people get their advice from family and friends. And those people are not necessarily qualified to give them that advice. So the truth of the matter is, the reason that, we get out here and we're on shows like America's Heroes Group is because we want to have you see our face, have you hear our voice, know that we can be trusted, put ourselves out there, and help to share our expertise, not just whatever product that we're selling, but actually share our information and share our expertise with the public. Because we want to make sure that as you are asking questions and we're giving you answers, that you can say to yourself, that person sounds like they know what they're talking about. That person's not just fast talking and talking slick. That person's giving me real and bona fide information about how I can develop financially. So, again, one of the programs that we're talking about, the company is Next Level Coaching, and Next Level Coaching has multiple programs and products because we help people in different arenas. Sometimes people are looking to develop their business credit. We help with that. Some people are looking to just be able to get funding for their own personal selves, whether they're trying to restructure their debt and not go into some of these bad programs. They just really want to figure out how they can restructure. Sometimes people are looking to just build their credit scores because they want to do everything at the cheapest rate. I am a strong proponent for low interest rates and better lending products. But in order to have that, you have to first start with your credit. So credit is just the door opener for so many things. You have to keep in mind that we are in a capitalistic society. And I'm going to tell you, it is going to probably get more challenging when it comes to the wealth gap, meaning that because we're in such a capitalistic society, the top of society is going to be gouging and trying to get money. And those of us in the middle or even the lower ends of society, just good old middle America, is going to have to do a much better job of managing our finances, managing our money, understanding how to be more financially savvy, and understanding how to optimize and put all of our resources to improving our own conditions. I'm definitely not going to be waiting for the government to save me. I'm not going to be waiting for somebody to give me a handout. That just does not calculate and compute in my head. And so I want to empower people through financial literacy. But the Coach to Cash program takes it one step further. It's not just empowering you with information, it's helping to customize your approach. And that is what I see is generally missing from all of the programs and products that I see out there. People are just, putting information out there, but that information is what I would consider general advice. General advice does not work for everyone. I'll give you an example. If we're here, I'm in Chicago, and someone said, Lisa, how do I get to Las Vegas? And I just told them, drive straight south. Straight south is not going to get you to Las Vegas from Chicago. You need much more specific details and information. So you have to be very careful with general advice, especially when it comes to our finances. If you're in the stocks and I told you to sell, you're going to go, well, my stock is doing well, I'm not going to sell. Of course not. You're not going to follow general advice when it comes to something like that, right? So the truth of the matter is that you need more specific advice. And so we made sure that we developed a program that allowed, in the process of you learning and you getting what we would consider some self-help as part of the program, actual video platform that you can log into where there's videos and resources that you can download and information that you can read to give you further advisement. That is great, but you also need that personal touch, somebody to see you, someone to see your situation. and to take the knowledge and expertise that they have and apply it to your particular situation. And so that's the goal with Coach to Cash, is that, if you want to be coached to be able to get some cash, because the almighty dollars, where is that, right? That's what everybody's out there running to catch. Well, I just want you to be comfortable. I just want you to live well. I just want you to execute a program and on a platform that can help you grow and develop for whatever it is that you want to do, not based on everybody else's standards, not based on, oh, this is promises to make you rich. But no, this is a promise to help you do the best you can and take control of the things that you can, and to get clear and concise advisement about what you can do to improve your personal situation. And so that is what Coach to Cash is about. That's what the company Next Level Coaching is about, working with people to build and develop a better self, a better process, a better system. And we're big on systems. So systems are what most companies put in place, because through systems, you understand, okay, if I follow a system, I should get from one place to another. And if I don't make it to that next place, if you're implementing a system should give you a clear idea of what went wrong, because you should be able to look back and say, what part of the system did I not implement? Or what part of the system did I perhaps overlook or skim or not put the effort in, right? But when you have a good, clear system, that helps you to do that. For our company, we have a couple of systems that we use, a couple of financial processes, a couple of philosophies that we implement. And those philosophies really help us to guide not only ourselves, but to guide our clients in terms of how they're moving forward and making sure that they have the right understanding of how they need to look at all of this. Because, financial challenges can be so varied. But if you have a clear-cut roadmap, it really does help people figure out where they are. So one of our roadmaps that we implement is called the 10 Credit Building Commandments. And the philosophy behind that is just really helping people to understand how to use credit as a wealth building tool. Not using credit for debt, using credit as a wealth building tool. And so what do I mean by that? Most people, the first thing they think about when they think about their credit is they think about debt. Well, credit, when you have good credit and a high credit score, it's not about debt at all. There's plenty of pieces of credit that you can get that do not put you in debt. So let's just say, for instance, I gave you a $10,000 credit card right now. The question is, are you in debt? Well, if you don't use the credit card, then you absolutely are not in debt. However, you are building credit, because that credit card company is going to report to the bureaus every month. And they're going to say, hey, Lisa's doing great. Lisa hasn't maxed me out, and Lisa's not running up a bunch of debt. Great. And you're building credit. That's what we mean when there's a system in place that you have the understanding, because you're part of this philosophy that my credit should be used for wealth building and not for debt building, that you can have credit without building debt. And that should be your goal. Credit should be something that you have there for when you can, or when you want to, buy things that you cannot buy cash. Most of us don't have enough cash sitting around to buy a house. You're going to typically need credit for that, right? Most of us don't have enough cash to buy a new car, maybe a used one, but certainly not a new one, right? So there are things we need credit for. You have to prepare now what you need to do with your credit in order for you to be prepared in the future for what you want to use credit for. So the point is, if you start preparing now, which is, a large part of what we're doing with the Coach to Cash program, is we're coaching you for now. What do you need to do now to get yourself in that position? In that position, meaning the position where I have great credit scores, I have available credit, bankers love the way I look, and the things that I want to do, I'm able to do. And in that process, what are some of the issues that I need to deal with? And how do I need to deal with those issues to get them gone? Not magically disappeared via credit repair. No, actually resolved and not in the way. And that realistic advice is probably the number one thing, especially in the credit industry, that I feel people are missing. People are just missing an honest assessment of what is going to happen with these things that are on my credit report. What do I need to do about these things? Are there things I need to fight? Are there things I need to pay or settle out? What things are likely to go away? When will they go away? What things should I not expect to go away? And I got to grab the bull by the horns and deal with. How can I build credit wherever I'm at? And what types of credit is good credit? What types of credit is bad credit? How do I need to build and develop myself? What do you think about certain moves that I want to make? Am I in a position to do it? So many people don't even know what lenders they should go to, what banks they should deal with. And believe me, that is not just universal, good for everyone. I can go to these certain banks. Certain banks don't want to see you. Certain banks, you do not fit their profile. Certain banks, you will be eternally disappointed because you've left your money sitting there and they still won't give you a credit card or give you a loan. It's because you don't fit their profile. Is anybody talking to you about that? Is anybody helping you understand those things? So if you're not getting the right advice, if you're not getting the right guidance, you will go down the wrong road. Because when that fork in the road comes, you have to make a choice. And if you choose the wrong direction, it's going to take you quite some time to, one, figure out that you're going in the wrong direction. Two, fix it. Fix it so that you don't have to keep going in that direction. So that rather than additional time being taken for making that mistake, you don't have to make that mistake when you get expert advice. So for us at Coach to Cash, we try to give you expert advice so you're not going in the wrong direction. Okay. So one of the things is I tell folks all the time, it's real easy to check me out. Go to coach2cash.com, coach2cash, all one word.com. And you can understand more about what that program entails. But the truth of the matter is, don't keep looking to do this by yourself because you don't have to. You don't have to figure it all out yourself and do Google searches, which is going to give you mostly sponsored results, meaning that the first results that you see are going to be people who are just trying to sell you. They pay for those spots. Those are not necessarily people who you can trust to be the best resources for you and to give you the correct answers. We wanted to come here because we believe in the mission. We believe in the mission of America's Heroes Group. And we want to be part of a place that helps guide people and helps bring valuable information to people and helps provide a place that you can trust when you're getting the information that you're getting. So that is why we're here. And so the goal is, again, to get better guidance, get better direction, get expert advice, get coaching, learn the help you need, get access to assessments, and things that help you measure and reveal to you what your strengths and weaknesses are beyond just what someone tells you. But at the end of the day, all of those resources should come together to move you in a better direction. And you should be able to measure those results, measure that progress. And so at the end of the day, that is what we're looking to do, to help you measure that and be a resource for you. I think that my time is wrapping up. And with that being said, just want to reiterate again, you can visit us at Coach, COACH, 2TO, Cash, CASH, coach2cash.com. My name is Lisa Gavin, and I can tell you just a quick little bit about myself. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I started in higher ed. So my intentions were always pure. I had college students that I was teaching and developing. And then I also was the director of alumni relations for my university. So I managed communication with all 50 something thousand plus graduates at the time. And, I've always been interested in bringing quality services to people. And so even though I've been in my own business for 20 years, I follow the same model. I want to bring quality help, support, services, and education. Education is probably very big for me, not only coming from the college environment, from higher ed, but having a mother who was a child care expert for 40 years of her fantastic life. And so I think it's just ingrained in me to want to educate. And so we certainly hope that through our programs, that you can get a chance to check us out and learn more about how we go about helping people. And so what they say, that's all, folks.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618.
I'm Ken Jennings. All of us here at Jeopardy want to thank you for your service to our nation. We truly honor and appreciate you, and what's more, we're looking for contestants like you to play on our show. So head to Jeopardy.com now and take the Anytime test, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon right here on the Alex Trebek stage.
G Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Stephanie Kalota. If you do not know me at all and haven't seen me on this, I am known for my political blog, The Political Veteran, and I also come on AHG as well for news correspondent stuff. And that is what I will be talking about right now, because a lot of things has happened since President Trump has been inaugurated, and he has been sending out a flurry of executive orders. A lot of these executive orders do pertain to the military and also veterans as well. So that's pretty much what I'll be talking about. And that's for this half hour. This next half hour, I will talk more about that stuff as the political veteran. And because trust me, we have a lot to go over. So one of the things that has been happening for military people, especially current military people, are the trans ban that has recently been signed last Monday. And this has been something that we have been knowing that would come up because this was something that was in the Project 2025 booklet, which I have spoken a lot on this at length. And I highly recommend for you all to look it up, Project 2025, because there are a lot of executive orders that are following it to the T. So that's one of the things that's been happening. So with the trans ban and those executive order pertaining to those people that are serving openly as trans in the military. First, I really want to give you a little bit of back history. So for those that are not aware, there have been trans people that served in the military and they were closeted. So they were serving in the military as trans. Often they get their transition before they serve, before they join, and kind of sneak it through, or they try to go as is or whatever. There's trans people that happened in Civil War and served during then, and we find out later. So there are a lot of things that can happen, and there's a lot of people that have served that were trans that we were never aware of. And there were trans people that were serving before the official ban on trans people serving openly was rescinded in 2016. That was rescinded by President Obama. And there was a lot of literature on that. There was a study, there was Joint Chiefs, and many of the generals of each of the services had been in a congressional hearing over this. So there's a lot of literature on what they believe, how it would affect the military if an openly trans person served within a unit. So there's a lot of information out there for that side. And then there's information on the other side, because after President Trump was elected, and not even a year later after the ban was lifted, he rescinded that and basically reinstated the trans ban. He couldn't quite affect those people that were serving openly in the military that they were already in. He couldn't affect those. He had an issue trying to remove those from the military. So when President Trump lost the 2020 election, President Biden rescinded, or basically lifted the trans ban again, or lifted the trans ban that Trump instituted. And in this one, I will read from President Biden's executive order. Now, it's Executive Order 14004 of January 25th, 2021, and it's titled Enabling All Qualified Americans to Serve in Their Country in Uniform. This is good. It might be a little long, but just bear with me. It's really great that if you read the context of both sides, I will read President Biden's and then I'll read President Trump's. President Biden says that all Americans who are qualified to serve in the armed forces in the United States should be able to serve. An all-volunteer force thrives when it is composed of diverse Americans who can meet the rigorous standards for military service, and an inclusive military strengthens our national security. It is my conviction, President Biden, as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, that gender identity should not be a bar to military service. Moreover, that there is substantial evidence that allowing transgender individuals to serve in the military does not have any meaningful negative impact on the armed forces. To that end, in 2016, a comprehensive study requested by the Department of Defense found that enabling transgender individuals to serve openly in the United States military would have only a minimal impact on military readiness and healthcare costs. The study also concluded that open transgender service has had no significant impact on operational effectiveness or unit cohesion in foreign militaries. Side note, there have been foreign militaries that have allowed openly trans people to serve. UK, Israel, Australia, and I believe Canada have already allowed them to serve. So it's not the US doing this for the first time. They're not striking it out there without any knowledge. They've seen it from other countries, and pretty good countries that we like to, that are allies and compare ourselves to. I mean, really great militaries. So back to his executive order. Based on this information, the Secretary of Defense concluded in 2016 that permitting transgender individuals to serve openly in the military was consistent with military readiness and with strength through diversity, such as transgender service members who could meet the required standards and procedures should be permitted to serve openly. Secretary of Defense also concluded that it was appropriate to create a process that would enable service members to take steps to transition gender while serving. So it goes on, but what it does is that it actually allows them to do it. And I'll let you know that the study that I actually was able to find, it was actually from the RAND study, the RAND Corporation that did the study. And it is pretty good. You can look up, I believe for the release was June 30, 2016. And they have the studies out there on the RAND Corporation site. So I highly recommend, if you guys are interested in finding out really how that would affect the military, I do recommend for you to read that. It's very interesting material. Now, to President Trump's. Okay. Make sure I have the right one. Yes. Okay. So he wrote, the United States military, of course, this was signed last Monday. I am taking this from the White House website. And so I don't have the actual executive order number because it hasn't been inputted on the Federal Register yet. So FYI, but you can look this up on the White House website, and it is titled Prioritizing Military Excellence and Readiness. He says the U.S. military has a clear mission to protect the American people and our homeland as the world's most lethal and effective fighting force. Success in this existential mission requires a singular focus on developing the rigorous warrior ethos, and the pursuit of military excellence cannot be diluted to accommodate political agendas or other ideologies harmful to unit cohesion. Recently, however, the armed forces have been afflicted with radical gender ideology to appease activists, unconcerned with the requirements of military service like physical and mental health, selflessness, and unit cohesion. Long-standing DoD policy, insert instructor number here, provides that it is the policy of the DoD to ensure that service members are free of medical conditions or physical defects that may reasonably be expected to require excessive time lost from duty for necessary treatment or hospitalization. As a result, many mental and physical health conditions are incompatible with active duty, from conditions that require substantial medication or medical treatment to bipolar and related disorders, eating disorders, suicidality, and prior psychiatric hospitalization. Consistent with the military mission and longstanding policy expressing a false gender identity divergent from the individual's sex cannot satisfy the rigorous standards necessary for military service. Beyond the hormonal and surgical medical interventions involved, adoption of the gender identity inconsistent with an individual's sex conflicts with a soldier's commitment to an honorable, truthful, and disciplined lifestyle, even in one's personal life. A man's assertion that he is a woman and his requirement that others honor his falsehood. It is not consistent with the humility and the selflessness required of a service member. Again, this is the words from President Trump in his executive order, not my words, and not the words of America's Heroes Group, just reading this off to you. For the sake of our nation and the patriotic Americans who volunteer to serve it, military service must be reserved for those mentally and physically fit for duty. The armed forces must adhere to mental and physical health standards to ensure our military can deploy, fight, and win, including the austere conditions and without the benefit of routine medical treatment or special provisions. So, what they're saying, what they also say into the executive order is that they rescind the executive order that President Biden has written. So that basically removes the ability to serve while as openly trans in the military service. And then he has other stipulations and other things required. So, Secretary of Defense shall promptly issue directives for the DoD to end invented and identification-based pronoun usage to best achieve the policy outlined in Section 2 of this order. And within 30 days of this order, the Secretary shall identify all additional steps and issue guidance necessary to fully implement this order, and submit to the President through the Assistant to the President for National Security Affairs to a report that summarizes these steps. I'm not done. There's another one. So, and it includes, absent extraordinary operational necessity, armed forces shall neither allow males to use or share sleeping, changing, or bathing facilities designated for females, nor allow females to use or share sleeping, changing, or bathing facilities designated for males. Specifically saying that trans women cannot shower in women's shower rooms or, use those bathroom facilities, and vice versa. Trans men cannot use the men's showers, and so on. So, and then it includes within 30 days of the issuance of the respective updates, directives, guidance, and other subsections, the Secretary of Homeland Security shall also work on these as well. Lots of legalese, but basically including the Coast Guard, because if those that do not know, the Coast Guard does not go under the DoD. They actually fall under the Department of Homeland Security. So they actually need to have that special little thing in there to make sure that Homeland Security will follow those orders as well. Because if it only says the Secretary of Defense, Homeland Security is doesn't say I have to do anything. So you have to specifically say that. So what does that mean for our current people openly serving as trans in the military? That means if you were born a woman and then you transition to a man, you would still have to use the women's facilities. Now, from when I remember when I served, there was no identifier added to your personnel record. You would have to go digging into your people's medical records to do this, to find out if they're trans. People may know that they're openly trans, and that could be it. Some people I know that have transitioned, they didn't tell anyone. Especially if they came to a new unit and nobody knows them, they didn't tell anyone they were trans. And honestly, that's okay. They don't have to tell them that. So there might be a really difficult, sticky wicket there on trying to enforce that part of the policy. We'll have to sit and see and wait on how we are going to do this, how they are going to do this. It's very reminiscent of the security bathrooms issues that keeps coming up whenever trans people are known to be serving in an area or working in an area and people bring up the bathrooms safety. This came up when a congresswoman from Maryland was elected, and she is trans, was born a man, and openly out and identifies as a woman. And so in return to her being elected, there was a congresswoman, that cis-born woman, congresswoman, tried to institute a law that only born women could use the women's bathrooms in the government facilities. So it's one of those things that we tend to hear often. That bill I don't think has been reintroduced, because it was introduced last congressional session. I haven't heard of it being reintroduced, but it wouldn't surprise me if it comes up soon. There has been a flurry of congressional bills that's been submitted. So I've been barely keeping track of those that are military and veteran related, and trying to keep up with everything else has been a little difficult. So I'm sorry, that one I'm not sure of. So, and in return to this executive order, there has been a report released, I believe it was yesterday, that from AP News, they actually said that 6 active duty service members file a lawsuit challenging Trump's troop transgender ban. So they are working with 2 firms, and that is, oh goodness, their acronyms are listed, and I'm trying to remember for, I believe one of them is the National Center for Lesbian Rights, and the other one is GLAAD, and I can never remember what that one is. Let me look. Okay. GLAAD is GLBTQ, Legal Advocates and Defenders. It's a nonprofit like the other one that basically helps with legal rights and fighting lawsuits, basically, and filing for their own human rights. So they filed a challenge to the executive order in the District of Columbia. So the Pentagon said that it does not comment on pending or ongoing litigation, but will fully execute and implement all directives outlined by the executive order issued by the president, ensuring that they are carried out with the utmost professionalism, efficiency, and in alignment with the national security objectives. There isn't any official data of how many transgender personnel are currently serving in the military. There's a rough estimate, but the estimate is probably in the thousands. It's very possible it's higher than that. So it's kind of hard because, like I said, that there is no way to actually, there's not anything in the personnel records, anything in the personnel systems. You can't look up, and there's no signifier for a trans person on their administrative records. And there might be the only way I can tell that they could probably tell if they are is if they were looking up in medical records, and most likely if they were receiving the hormone treatments. But you can also run into issues with that because a lot of times hormone treatments are given to people that are not trans. For me, I'm going to be starting a breast cancer treatment program, treatment and prevention treatment, because I am very high risk. And that is an estrogen blocker, tamoxifen, which is often what trans people use, basically trans men use, to basically be a woman, be a man, and no longer have the estrogen going through. And they usually will take T as well, take testosterone. So it's that might cause some issues because then you can accidentally identify somebody who is not trans and then target, and basically that can be another lawsuit waiting to happen that I can see, and that can go very, very bad. And also it could also be a issue with HIPAA. And so it's going to be quite an interesting thing to watch. And so that's going to be ongoing. I know that that's going to be something that I'll probably be talking about a lot, hoping to bring more people on to talk about that one, for people to really try to talk about and reflect on, to help with a lot of people to estimate what the heck's going on here. I will say a few things from the RAND Corporation report, especially on their press release. They have a really great summary. They said that the additional healthcare costs can range between 2.4 million and 8.4 million, representing an approximate 0.13% increase in the DoD costs for these transition-related surgeries and ongoing treatment for the active component service members. And the other thing that I know that is an issue with trans soldiers is that when they have these surgeries, then they transition and they go on to their treatments. They have to be non-deployable. And the amount of time to be non-deployable is quite long. So that is one of the issues that has been raised, which honestly is an understandable one. People that are not deployable are often seen as not service members because they can't deploy, they can't do their jobs when they are called. So that is one of the things that has been the big con against trans people serving in the military. Let's see. Trying to find out in terms of readiness. RAND estimates that 10 to 130 active component members each year could have reduced deployability as a result of gender transition related treatments. This amount is negligible relative to the 102,500 non-deployable soldiers in the Army alone in 2015, 50,000 of them in the active component. So that's very small of how many people that would actually be part of the non-deployables to do the little increase. For somebody that used to work on staff teams and had to brief non-deployables a lot, it is very annoying to have to do that a lot because you have to explain why each individual person cannot deploy. It's often medical. Sometimes it's an easy fix. Sometimes it's a long-term fix. And some people just get injured and it takes them years to finally get processed out or recover. And that's often what happens. And that's the frustrating part that happens when you are working on a staff team. So I feel them on a little bit of the moaning and groaning when it comes to the non-deployable side. So, okay. Now, let's do a little bit of a turn at the end because I'd like to give a little bit of time towards the VA Secretary's nomination hearing he had last week. He's going to be coming up for the nomination vote, probably the end of this week or early next week. It hasn't been scheduled yet. There's been a lot of nomination hearings this week because RFK was today. I know Tulsi Gabbard is coming up and also Kash Patel. So those are been taking a lot of the attention, and I haven't seen any any scheduled votes going on for that. But Doug Collins, he's a former representative, was picked to be nominated for the VA secretary. And this hearing was quite interesting. It was very relaxed and very calm compared to such hearings like RFK's today and also Pete Hegseth's, because there was a lot of vitriol in both of those. There was a lot of protests, a lot more in Pete Hegseth's than RFK's. They were able to shut RFK's protests down really quickly and was able to continue on. And so Representative Doug Collins is awaiting his confirmation vote in the Senate to hopefully become the 12th VA secretary. Now, there are a lot of things that veterans are looking forward to seeing what they can get out of him, what he can improve. A recent report from the VA report showed that approximately 6,400 veterans died by suicide in 2022, a small increase from 2021, and the lowest mark in 12 in the previous 14 years. But however, veterans are still dying by suicide at almost double the rate of civilian population. So we're really hoping that he can try to help with the healthcare the mental health care issues that's been going on. Another one would be the veteran homelessness. a January 2024 count showed that almost 33,000 veterans who experience homelessness. And that's actually pretty good because that's 7.5% less than 2023. An estimated number of veterans experience homelessness has actually decreased by 55.6% since 2010. So they're hoping to just keep increasing and knocking it down to try to get it as low as possible. And so there has been some issues on homelessness recently on stemming problems from the VA supportive housing funds being appropriated to migrants. So that's been a hot topic that's been going on. It's been disputed by the Biden administration that they did use some funds, but that was when it was contracted by ICE and there was an agreement there. So it was something that it's hard to explain to somebody that doesn't understand the funding side, but we haven't seen any big issues with it affecting any veterans individually. So we'll see how this one goes. There has been some things that's been coming up with the infrastructure for the VA, hoping to get some improvements on that. There's been a lot of facilities that are going up, and because of the PACT Act, because that included a lot of funding for infrastructure for the VA, not pork barrel spending. Sorry, Senator Pat Toomey was lying there, but a lot of facilities have been breaking ground and actually building now. The problem is that there's also other facilities that probably need to be downgraded or closed because of the dwindling or declining populations of veterans in that area. I'm hoping that that is something that will come up because the Trump administration really wants to try to cut costs, lower the amount of federal jobs, and try to decrease spending. That would be something that needs to be done, is to try to cut costs, is to close clinics where there is like very low veteran population to be serviced. So they don't need, I'm sorry to be mean, but if there's not enough veterans to really be serviced there, they really should try to reallocate them to areas where they need it, where they really do need it, and that can save a lot of costs. So keep an eye out. Of course, the next thing on that article was balancing the budget. So keep an eye out. Contact your senators. See if you really do like Doug Collins, and let them know whether you like him or not. And I will be back after this short break, and I hope you guys have a good time, and I will see you back.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618.
I'm Ken Jennings. All of us here at Jeopardy want to thank you for your service to our nation. We truly honor and appreciate you, and what's more, we're looking for contestants like you to play on our show. So head to Jeopardy.com now and take the Anytime test, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon right here on the Alex Trebek stage.
Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Hi, everybody. I'm back. I told you. So I'm Stephanie Kalota. I'm here as the political veteran. And right now we're going to talk about President Trump's executive order on reinstating those people for that were discharged because of the mandatory COVID-19 vaccine. So approximately 8,000 troops were actually discharged from the military from 2021 to 2023. By the Biden administration and former Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, solely due to their COVID-19 vaccination status. For those that don't know, a range of vaccines are required while you serve in the military. We often we have to take the smallpox vaccine when we deploy. A lot of us has had the anthrax shot, this series of anthrax shots. And you're required a lot of the flu shots, tendinitis, a lot of the other ones as well. And every year it's the flu shot you're required to have. And then often they'll add other ones to it whenever we've had like the bird flu a couple of times. I remember that one coming through, and that came in late as a separate vaccine that they rushed. I think in less time they did with the COVID vaccine. I remember it was probably around 2009 during that scare. And so those type of things have come up before. And when the COVID vaccine came onto the market and the DoD started distributing and requiring it because they require a large series of vaccines to serve. And so that one was one of the first ones to really be met with a lot of resistance, which surprised a lot of people. But then some other people, it didn't surprise them a lot because of the big movement of the anti-vaccine movement that has been growing among the civilian population. This is one of the first times that the military, active service people, and also from the Reserve and National Guard starting participating with it as well. So because there was a lot of pushback on the COVID vaccine. So this one is an executive order that I believe was signed on January 27th, so 2 days ago, reinstating service members discharged under the military's COVID vaccine mandate. That's what the executive order is called. So basically, it is making a reinstatement available to all military members, active and reserve, technically Guard as well, who are discharged solely for refusal to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, who request to be reinstated. This enabled those members reinstated under this section to revert back to their former rank and receive full back pay, benefits, bonuses, or compensation, and allow any service members who provide a written or sworn attestation, that they voluntarily left the service or allowed their service to lapse according to the appropriate procedures, rather than be vaccinated under the vaccine mandate, to return to service with no impact on their service status, rank, or pay. That one basically is saying if your contract had ended before you had your final date to get your vaccine, or you would be discharged. If you just let your contract lapse, so you didn't re-enlist, they're saying if you get that documentation on there, they will allow you to also be part of this back pay. So this is allowing them to come back. And so within 60 days of this order, the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall report to the President through the Assistant to the President for National Security Affairs on their progress in implementing this order. So we'll see how this goes in 60 days, because often after 60-day reports of executive orders or other reports, usually it's 6 months for legislation, usually they publicly release the reports that they receive. So we might get it in about 90 days because they might ask for an extension, and then they will probably apologize, smile and laugh about that, because whenever I used to have to write deadlines and things, I would always try, if I had to make sure I had to submit it within a certain day, I would back it up at least maybe a couple of weeks. So then, because I know I'm going to have to approve extensions, so I will make sure that the extensions go right up to when I have to submit it up to higher. So that's why I laugh a little inside, because there might be extensions requests on there. And so I expect we might get it in about 90 to 100 days, hopefully, that we get that released and we can see how they are trying to carry it out. It looks like that they are stipulating, if I'm reading it right, they're stipulating people to get the back pay if they come back in. Only if they come back in. Not if, hey, I don't want to come back, but I want my back pay to the end of the contract or now or what have you. It doesn't look like that's what is being approved or stipulated here, which I know has been something that many has been questioning for those that have been separated from the military because they didn't get the COVID vaccine. And I know some of them will probably be hoping that they can get that back pay, but they might be reluctant to go back in because the way that they were treated might have put a really bad taste in their mouth, and it might cause a lot of issues because they might disrupt their lives more because they had to find new jobs and a new support system, and they might be settled now. So that might cause a little bit more issues than it might actually hope for. So this was actually kind of part of, this is an extension of what Biden has already done, because when legislation, I'm trying to remember, when new rules were adopted in 2023, that basically made the COVID vaccine no longer a requirement to serve, they actually did allow people to be reinstated and come back in. And only a few people, right, 73 soldiers, 25 Marines, 13 airmen, and 2 sailors out of 8,000 people actually chose to come back. That's it. So we'll see how that one goes on how many people actually come back. If they're really great numbers, I do expect a really big, flashy press release. If it's really bad numbers and very low numbers, I'm not sure if they'll actually release it. They might try to put it out with the trash with all the other stuff and might release it, but I'll keep an eye out on it because that's what Google alerts are for. And you can keep an eye out on what really could be happening out there. There has been a wide range of reasons why many people were separated because of the COVID vaccine. I mean, some disagreed with how fast the COVID vaccine had actually was pushed through. And they were worried about whether it would actually not be safe for them and things like that, which I will say with the research I've done on it, COVID vaccine is from the SARS vaccine. COVID is from the SARS virus. And so all they do is they weren't having to build it from bottom and basically from nothing. They were able to build it from other vaccines because it was related to a similar virus. So when you take in a lot of the information on there, it kind of makes sense on how fast they were able to go through. But I do understand the worry about the lack of testing involved before they were really bringing it out there and having people worry. I mean, when I served, I was worried about the smallpox vaccine and the anthrax vaccine because we heard pretty bad things, but it wasn't much on social media. So we just kind of went with it and did it. So this way, with social media the way it is, people got to read more things and hear more things. And so a lot of people were swayed on how that went. And it's understandable, given on the information you might have had access to. So that's okay. But this is saying that you guys can be reinstated with full back pay benefits, but it does look like if they go through with the reinstatement. I expect that within the next 60 to 90 days, they probably will have all the information out to recruiters, because those are probably where service members would have to contact, and so that they can get back in. Because usually the recruiters are the ones that will do all of that paperwork. If you're a private service person and your contract ended, you still have to go back to a recruiter to get back in. And often that was probably going to be the route, and they would have all of the information available by then in 60 to 90 days. I don't expect it to be very soon, but that could be possible because it looks like they've been ready for this stuff for months. So you could call your recruiters now to find out how that is working out and what is going on. So this is going to be a quite interesting thing on that for the COVID vaccine. There has been some things that people are not happy about because of this, because people are saying that, especially leaders, if you disobeyed a lawful order and policy, regulation, things like that, and then you get punished, you go through the punishment and the consequences, and then you have it wiped and then given everything back, they believe it could also cause an issue with good order and discipline. So it's something to watch out for, and we'll have to see what's going on with that. And from there, we can talk about the Pete Hegseth secretary nomination, because now fully on the DOD, let's go through this on what happened. So this vote happened last Friday. And as we expected, all the Democrats voted against him. Most of the Republicans voted for him. The 3 nays from the Republicans was from McConnell, Murkowski, and Collins. And the surprise one was McConnell for a lot of people. So that actually made it a 50-50 vote. And J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, was in the building at the time because he was expecting that he might have to come in and do a vote, because when there is a 50-50 split in the Senate, it requires the president to be the tie vote, president of the Senate to be the tie vote. And the president of the Senate is the vice president, for those that don't know that part of the Constitution. And so they break the tie. It's one of the few duties a vice president really has per the Constitution, is to tie break. And and this was actually, from what I have been hearing, is only the second time that they've ever had to use a tiebreaker vote for a secretary nomination. The first for a Secretary of Defense, because a lot of Secretary of Defenses in the past have been getting 100-0. They've been passing on voice votes, which basically, voice vote is what they try to do on most things when they think that they have enough votes to pass. And basically, they'll just ask them to say their yays and nays, and they'll vocalize it instead of going by name. What are your yays or nays? And usually, if you can hear it, the person that is ruling at the time in the chamber would actually, and it's usually the majority leader, sometimes he designates somebody to do it. If he can hear it, that there's more votes on the yes side than the nay side, then he'll say the yays have it. And then sometimes they'll ask for actual vote by name so they can get it all recorded, who does it. But when it's really obvious, they don't do that. A lot of people that have gotten those 100-0 votes are like Secretary Leon Panetta, Secretary Mattis, It's quite interesting on how often that those Secretary of Defense positions really had a unanimous vote on those issues. This one was highly contested, and there was a lot of heat and speculation about Senator Tom Tillis, because he had been speaking with a lot of people that have been speaking negatively about Secretary Pete Hegseth, because he's nominated and said his vote or did his oath. And so now he's been speaking to a lot of the people on the negative side, and he wanted to hear from former family members about his character and his past. And there has been people that said if he got these people to say it on the record, he will vote no for Pete Hegseth. He ended up voting yes. And so there was a lot of heat and discontent going for Senator Tom Tillis from the left side about that, because he went back on his word, and also for people that went on the line and put their names out there to speak what their truth was about Pete Hegseth. So that's been causing a lot of stuff going on. There's been reports of senators that were leaning towards saying no, that received a lot of verbal and online abuse by alt-right and MAGA extremists. So some people like Deb Fischer, Joni Ernst, I believe, and some of the others that were leaning towards saying no were really threatened about not saying no. So it's caused a really interesting issue and speculation out there about all of the things happening around Secretary Pete Hegseth. I'm saying senator a lot, so I'm so used to saying it before a name. So there has been a lot of issues going along with his allegations of heavy drinking, aggressive behavior towards women, and a lot of the things that he said outright when on air when he was on Fox and Friends as the weekend host or co-host, And there's been a lot of things out there that people have an issue with. A lot of them, one of them is actually his position about women in the military in combat roles. He himself had been in combat positions in the military when he served. And this was a lot of the times that he served was when I'm trying to remember if it was before the ban was lifted. I think he started before he entered the military and started his time as a combat person in the military before the ban was lifted on women. And even now, there's only very few women serving in the military in combat positions. So his exposure to women in those positions may not be very wide on that. So we'll see. It's quite interesting. I mean, I myself have not served in combat or held a combat position, but I have known of quite a few. And I worked in engineer brigade and division that had combat engineer positions, one of the few combat positions in the Army Reserve. And I was there and the sexual assault response coordinator to the brigade when women started entering combat engineer positions. I've met the women that they put a woman in as first sergeant when she reclassed to the combat engineer position, MOS, and they put her in as the first sergeant. So they know that, because this woman, I'm sorry, was a badass. And so she was a really amazing leader and really amazing woman, and she could kick butt. And she did her combat engineer position in MOS amazing. I know a few of the women that's actually been able to go and get some of the really tough certificates and training that's associated. And it's quite amazing that they were able to do that and kick butt and sometimes do it better than the men. So we'll see how this goes with Pete Hegseth, because this could cause some issues with women in the military serving in combat positions, and it might change. And That's going to be a little difficult to do because that might cause a legislative action to then change policies, or he might change a policy that might make it unconstitutional because it's part of the law that they pass. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how this works out. And there might be more judicial actions. I foresee some lawsuits happening if he takes a position to try to stop women from joining the military into combat positions, or try to remove those that are currently serving in combat positions. So we will see on how that goes. It's a little bit of a concern for a lot of people currently serving. There are a lot of people currently serving and veterans that because of Pete Hegseth's allegations against women. So there are a lot of concern about military sexual violence not being taken as seriously. And there is still supposed to be more things to be improved on the past legislation that has passed in the last couple of years. Some of them were signed by President Trump. And we will see if those that legislation will be followed through by the Department of Defense. I can imagine that's going to cause some hearings for us to watch and some studies. I can imagine that one coming out. So stay tuned for that. MST might become a very big topic coming up again, especially if studies come out that the MST rates increase. Although we won't see that come out, I foresee, for another 2 years or another year. For those that don't know, for a lot of the sexual assault, sexual harassment reporting and statistics for the military don't come out until every April, which is Sexual Assault and Harassment Awareness Month. So those numbers are usually posted from about the previous year. So we'll see how that works out. But the report coming out this April will be reflecting the previous administrations and the previous Secretary of Defense leadership. So we will see it next year in April, but I think that the biggest change we might see could be in 2 years from now, because a year can be a very short time for a lot of things to be taken effect, and policy change, and also command climate can be changed slowly, but it can be changed very quickly. So that will be something we have to keep aware of. For those joining the military that might be a little scared about what I'm talking about right now, don't be worried about that, because military sexual violence, it does happen, but it has gotten better in the military. There's been happening less often. Response to it has been gotten a lot better, and training has been a lot better. And so there are a lot of ways to go and take care of it if you run into those issues. Always look that stuff up, Google it, and try to find out where you can go. There's a lot of, I believe there's DoD SafeLine and a lot of other access resources that you can do. I will probably be talking about this in April, so stay tuned to that, because I foresee going over what's going to be going on with that in the future. And so we'll see. And some other things about Pete Hegseth is also about returning to the warrior ethos. From what I remember, there's never been a recension of the previous warrior ethos in those type of climates. So we'll see how that those policies happen and how they come out. I foresee actually more training on basic warrior-based tasks, which were actually removed, I believe, during the Trump administration, because they figured that the training was too much at the time and it wasn't a priority. So it might be a change that they actually bring back stuff that the Trump administration actually removed. But that's what it's sounding like from pmcst because of the returning to warrior ethos. It's very reminiscent to those training requirements that we had to do every year, those annual classes and PowerPoint, death by PowerPoint sessions. And I apologize for the veterans out there that might be getting flashbacks or triggered by these words that I am now saying. But I have a feeling that that might be something that would be coming up. There would probably be some classes coming down about the transgender service members that will probably come out. And so we'll see how that goes. We have been seeing a lot of change on DEI procedures and policies and offices. I'm not sure if that is going to affect the equal opportunity advisors, and we'll have to see. I haven't seen any reports to that yet, but that is a possibility. And the problem with that is that the equal opportunity advisors can really do a lot of help in reporting, and they also do a really great job at doing command climate studies, not just doing making sure that people aren't being discriminated against because of their sex, race, what have you. But it might be they do a really great job at studying the climate on how things are going on, because if there is a very toxic climate that's happening within a unit, more than likely there's more than one issue going on and more than one thing that's criminally happening within the unit. And more likely to have sexual violence as well. So often when I was a sexual assault response coordinator, I did a lot of work with EOs that we had in those units, and that can it can work hand in hand. And removing those EO advisors could cripple the sexual assault response coordinators, and make it, and those victim advocates that work underneath them, it could make things a lot harder. We'll have to see. I'm now thinking about the command climate surveys that the EO people did, because those were actually pretty helpful on finding out whether the leadership are doing their job or not. That's one of the things that's really a lot of leadership have been getting fired for cause because of the command climate surveys of what has been coming out. And recently, whenever there are suicides happening within units, they also pull the command climate surveys to the units and looking at them more closely. And that's been happening in the past couple of years now. And that's been really helping out on weeding out the bad leaders and trying to root out the command climate toxicity. And so I'm really hoping that the EO advisors do not lose their jobs, do not get reinstated elsewhere, because the command climate structure study program is amazing and it really does help a ton. And so we'll see, keep our fingers crossed. You can always talk to your senators about that. If you have issues, if you see issues, report them, call your senators and let them know so that they can bring it up with Pete Hegseth, because they have the contact. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618.
I'm Ken Jennings. All of us here at Jeopardy want to thank you for your service to our nation. We truly honor and appreciate you, and what's more, we're looking for contestants like you to play on our show. So head to Jeopardy.com now and take the Anytime test, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon right here on the Alex Trebek stage.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
I am so happy to be able to do this show today. I'd like to, it's our first show of 2025. I want to say Happy New Year's to everybody. Just wanted to update our listeners since there has been changes in administration and also in policy and procedures. And the compliance that the VA must adjust, we must adjust under this administration. And NU feels that this administration will be open to dialogue in regarding to improved staffing, increase of hiring in all departments, so that the vision of the mission of the VA can be supported, as well as all of the wonderful programs that are geared towards veteran care. The veterans continue to seek care here at the VA. We're very proud that this administration will increase their budget, as we've been told, and they'll increase the budget so that the health care professionals will seek employment at the VA. This will help us to bring the very best to the VA. I'm also proud that the increase in budget hopefully will address the infrastructure and make this a more welcoming environment. Hopefully it will also help to support updated equipment, IT issues, and will help to support our women veterans' health care. That needs to be enlarged because more female veterans are seeking care at the VA. This will also help to increase bed capacity. Many of our veterans come in with a lot of comorbidities, and their stay at the hospital increase in days. So if we increase our beds, we'll be able to support that increase in patient care, delivery of care. Our patients sometimes maybe wait until they feel is important to come and see. But we encourage our patients to come and visit with their primary care doctors, if not every 6 months, at least yearly. And they can just walk in. The VA has it where they can walk in. Private sector, you have to make an appointment. And sometimes it takes up to a couple months to get in to see a doctor. But our veterans can come into the VA at any time. So we hope this administration will hear this and contribute to support the veterans who are perhaps don't want to make appointments or need care and don't want to go to urgent care, but they can walk into the clinics and ask to be seen. We'd also like to see an increase in the budget that will also help to support more mental health personnel at the VA. That personnel will help us to deliver better mental health treatments, extend programs for our veterans. Oftentimes we have to send them to other programs in different states. And if we can have those programs in the city or the state that they live in, it would certainly help to encourage them to come in and to get their care at the VA. Our emergency departments sometimes, especially during certain times of the year, is full. And we would like to be able to see them a lot quicker. If we can enlarge some of the emergency rooms so that the capacity will be enlarged and we'll be able to process and care for many more of our veterans as they need urgent care, imaging care even. Our veteran population for World War II, our Desert Storm veterans, they're starting to age, and with aging comes more needs for physical therapy and more medical support. And so we do feel this administration will take that into consideration. NNU has over 100,000 RNs throughout the country, and we're at 23 VAs. We are supportive of our veterans and our veteran nurses. We have veteran nurses that work at the VA. They work side by side with us. And our veterans feel more comfortable seeking care at the VA because they know that our staff have veterans among that staff, that they will probably be able to interact with another veteran who is delivering their care. And that's very important. That our veterans choose to come here and work at the VA to care for their brothers and sisters. We want the very best for our veterans, and we sure know that this administration wants the same thing. We would like to collaborate, and we are the voices of the veterans. We're kind of really like that canary in the coal mine because the nurses tend to have a sixth sense when it comes to caring for our veterans. The other thing is we see our veterans often and we know them as family. We do go home with our veterans in our heart and in our mind. We think about them. We think about how we could have maybe improved the care that day. Did we do everything we were supposed to do? And then the next day when our nurses return to work, we're happy to see our veterans and they're happy to see us because there is a veteran, a VA nurse in the community caring for our veterans, and our veterans care for us. We hope that the new administration will understand the need for flexible scheduling for our nurses. They want flex hours. We want to keep them here. They are experienced nurses. They're experienced in the VA. And our veterans know them and feel comfortable coming here seeking the care because it's like family. Many of our nurses and other healthcare staff has family members who are veterans. They know what the veteran needs. Their fathers, their uncles, their brothers, their sisters, their aunts, their sons, their daughters may be a veteran. And therefore, that's another reason that motivate them to provide the best care possible that we can provide for our veterans. Our veterans are very dear to us, and we want employees who are reliable and loyal, trustworthy, and caring for them. And that's why it's very important that the Congress and the Senate supports the budget of the VA so that we can hire staff in the VA who will want to come and work because their pay will not be impacted. Private sector does pay more. Our staff here is dedicated to our veterans. Oftentimes, you can go down the street, up the street, across the street for more pay, but the staff chooses to stay in the VA. And the reason is for the care of our veterans. We enjoy our veterans. We laugh with them. We cry with them. We celebrate the birth of their grandchild or even their child. They come to us with their most personal problems and concerns. And we want to have that time to be able to listen to them, to offer to them that support that they seek at that time. If we don't have adequate staffing, it's like we're running from one emergency to another and feel very bad that I can't stay and talk with that patient for a few extra minutes. I had a patient once who stated he was happy to see me. He hadn't seen me for a couple days. And he had confided in me that he was feeling suicidal and he wanted to talk to me. And I always will carry that in my heart that that patient trusted me enough not to harm himself and to wait until he was able to talk to me and we were able to get him the care that he needed. Many of our veterans, especially with mental health issues, are separated from their families and from their communities because of their mental health problems. But at the VA, all of our staff are prepared to care for those patients who are in crisis, who may need that extra minute. And with appropriate budget, the VA will continue to be able to supply, will be able to supply that time to our veterans to hear them because we'll have enough staff. You know, sometimes we just go to check on their IV and we can't just run in and run out. They may want to talk. They might have questions. They may feel confused and scared. And we need to have that time to be able to offer them that comfort and that support that they need. We need our staff to stay in the workforce. We don't want to lose staff. It takes a long time to train and to gain that experience to be a nurse to our veterans. And so we would like the environment of the VA to be supportive of the staff that we have here. And I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. I have all the confidence that this administration will hear and understand the needs of our veterans. Our veterans come from all walks of life. All walks of life. Some of them live in the streets. Some of them are homeless. Some of them are raising families in middle income environments. And then some are living in upper income environments. Our veterans are in everywhere. They're everywhere. They're in our stores, they're in our restaurants, they're in our warehouses. And those veterans, male and female, needs the VA to help to support them. Their children want to know that their parents are being cared for. And oftentimes, I see the veterans come here with their grandchildren or their children to receive care because they're proud to come here and to meet, introduce their kids to the staff. And the kids sometimes will stay and they'll buy their lunch for them in the lunchroom, and the veterans will spend that extra time with them. Some of the veterans are single parents, and they need that extra support to help them through their activities of daily living, the challenges that they face as single parents. The VA can offer that with our social workers and our psychologists and psychiatrists and our mental health staff and our nurses. Many times the family come to visit their veteran that may be an end of life, and they also need that extra support. The veterans need the nurses to be there and to show them compassion. They're not a number to us. They're not just a number. They are a special, special group of people who have dedicated their lives or part of their lives to helping to support America. And we as Americans, federal employees, you can't be a federal employee unless you're American, to help to support them and give them what they need. Our veterans often need time to be educated on the medication that they're taking. And some of them now are starting early stages of dementia or Alzheimer's. And it takes more time. I can't just say, well, here's your blood pressure pill. I've even advocated on my unit that the patients be given the same medication from the same distributor so the color of the meds or the shape of the med doesn't change, so that they can recognize their meds and take it as prescribed. But our mental health patients, oftentimes, if their meds are changed, they will not stay or be compliant with that medication. And then we have to start all over with them. I've been in the VA for a few years. I wanted to leave. I only came to help support the veterans through the Gulf War. But after I came here, I decided to stay. This was home for me. This was the passion of what I do, the reason why I became an RN. And our other nurses feel the same way. We often talk about it. They can go across the street, they can go down the street, they can go a couple miles closer to home. They can make more money working someplace else. But those of us who've chosen to stay here, it's not about all of that. It's really about our veterans and having them seek their care at the VA. We know that some of them may go in the community because for reasons, several different reasons, we're not always able to get them in as timely as we could. But if we had larger facility, if we had more staff, we would be able to decrease that time, that wait time. However, as a private citizen, I do know that we see our veterans timely more timely than if they went into the community, because oftentimes, as we all may know, we might have to wait a couple months to even get an appointment. They will tell us to go to the emergency room if if you have to come and see a doctor sooner than that. But our patients can come in and walk into the clinic and be able to see any of our clinicians to get the help that they need. We want a healthy veteran. We want their health to be primary. We want their health to be in front of every American's concern. And we want to be able to deliver that health care to them at the VA. The VA care has to be transparent. When they go into the community, they may not necessarily have that transparency. It's another reason why the VA is so important in the delivery of care to our veterans. This is also a teaching facility, which is very good. I always try to choose teaching facility for myself because you have many more eyes on that situation, and you can discuss it and you can talk about the best practices, and the nurses can confer with each other on something that they may see that needs immediate attention. Again, another reason for our veterans to come to the VA. Another reason that I feel this administration will provide a budget that is necessary to make the VA a world-class model for delivery of care. World-class. That's the kind of care our veterans should have. Our IT infrastructures need to be updated, and our infrastructures overall need updating. Facilities are not large enough to help to support the amount of veterans we have coming in. So we need to be able to have maybe longer hours to care for our veterans. Our veterans are working now, and sometime due to work, they may not be able to come in a morning appointment, but an evening appointment a couple times a week may help to support them in their delivery of health care, support them to get the care that they need. I encourage all of you, if you have a veteran in your circle of friends, in your family, just people that you know, because sometimes I just get in conversations with strangers, and we encourage them to come to the VA. We know that this administration will look at the veterans' needs very closely, and will ask for the budget that is needed to support the VA. Again, keep in mind that our veterans tend to need more extensive care. That is called comorbidities. They may come in with the flu, and then we find out that their blood pressure needs to be adjusted. So we handle that. But if I go to my doctor, I have to make another appointment to come and see them about the blood pressure. But here at the VA, no, it's one-stop shop. Come and see us. If you need us, come and see us. We need to see you. We need to have you here. I also want to take a moment to thank the Cliff Kelly and American Heroes Group for being a media partner for over 5 years with NNU. We celebrate this platform to help distribute vital information to our listening audience. Our veterans tune in to Cliff Kelly's show to get a lot of information that is provided to them on several issues. And I'm happy to be a part of this show and happy to be here tonight to be able to talk to our veterans, be able to support our veterans, and to be able to let them understand that when they come to the VA, they're in good hands. We are committed to being here for them. I'd like for all of our veterans who are listening who is not registered at the VA to please register. Just come and register. Even if you choose not to get care here, come and register as a veteran, because one day you may want to get your care here. I know veterans who've gotten knee replacements, who've gotten heart health care, and they've all been very satisfied with the care that was delivered to them. So come and register. Come and register. This administration is going to provide the services that you need. They are going to provide the health care that you need. For women veterans, please know that you are welcome here, that you are welcome at the VA, and that we want you to come here and get your care. And we offer care for female veterans that is private, and they are in their own section, and they can feel safe coming here to the VA. We want you to come here. To our younger vets, you may think there's nothing wrong with me and I don't need to go to see the doctor, but you should be getting that yearly exam. You should be getting a prostate exam. If you're a male, females, we have other healthcare needs, mammograms. That's another thing with the budget. We'll be able to expand our care for our female vets. So please come. Please know that the employees at the VA want you here, and we want to support you on your health care journey. I'd like to give you a second to think about this. You can go online and you can call whatever VA in your area. You can set up an appointment. They have social workers. They have doctors, they have psychologists, they have psychiatrists that will help you if you are in crisis. Okay, please come. In the Chicago area, we have 3 VAs, which we're fortunate. VAs are in every community in every state. They're everywhere. They're there for you to come and get your treatment.
Information and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 31.
Ken Jennings. All of us here at Jeopardy want to thank you for your service to our nation. We truly honor and appreciate you, and what's more, we're looking for contestants like you to play on our show. So head to Jeopardy.com now and take the Anytime test, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon right here on the Alex Trebek stage.
Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connect.
Well, good evening, everyone. Happy to be with you here tonight. My name is Keith McKinley, and I'm super excited to tell you what we have going on here in our veteran community in Southwest Louisiana. I'm a member of the Southwest Louisiana Veterans Association, and I'll talk a little bit more about our organization coming up. This is my second time on the show, and I guess I am now an official alumni of this great, great platform. I really appreciate what America's Hero Group does for not only our military, our families, and our veterans, but just for our community in general, strengthening communication and just cross-leveling ideas and ways we can work together like we did back on active duty to accomplish our needs, our requirements, and just build strong, lasting communities. I really respect the group's charter. You know, it's similar to what we use for the Southwest Louisiana Veterans Association. Similar charter is connecting, informing, and empowering. I like how the America's Heroes Group, you know, focuses on military personnel, family members, surrounding communities to include veterans, a very diverse group. And again, it's such an honor for me to talk to all of you across the United States and just share some initiatives we have going in here in our great state of Louisiana. So tonight, the agenda I have lined up is I'll first do a little bit of my background, tell you where I'm from and how I got to Louisiana, having grown up in Chicago. Talk a little bit about the veteran population we have here in Southwest Louisiana. From there, I'll discuss kind of what we do in the Southwest Louisiana Veterans Association, kind of our mission, our charter, and you know what we feel our calling to be within the area. From there, I'll talk about how the association that I'm a part of works with other organizations. There's a lot of great organizations out there doing, you know, great things for our veterans, our military, our communities. You know, we work with active and reserve military formations. There's a lot of veteran services organizations out there that we partner with. The American Legion, VFW, Disabled American Veterans, etc. And then finally, I'll tell you a lot about the private sector. You know, I think one of the many strengths we have here in Southwest Louisiana is we have a lot of active and, you know, caring private businesses. They really care about the veteran community. They want to help out. They want to make a difference and pay back, you know, the services and sacrifices that a lot of our veteran communication have contributed during their time on wearing the uniform. And then from there, I'll do a summary conclusion. I'll give you some resources and more information if you're interested about our association and other great programs here in Southwest Louisiana. Okay, so again, starting out with my background. So as I said, I was born in East Chicago many, many years ago. I grew up in Chicago. I was educated in Chicago. I attended my academics at Indiana University Northwest in Gary, Indiana. And then I was commissioned out of the program from Chicago State University. Chicago State is near and dear to my heart. I was able to go there earlier this fall, and that's where I met up and learned a lot about the America's Heroes Group and what they do for the veteran community. So once I went on active duty, I traveled around the world. I did 30 years in the U.S. Army as an infantry officer. I've lived overseas, stationed in assignments, non-combat assignments of Japan, Italy, Korea, Honduras. Have deployments all over the world. Did combat deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I met my wife here in Southwest Louisiana. So, how does a Yankee end up in Louisiana, right? I was stationed at Fort Polk, then now called Fort Johnson here in Louisiana. And that's about an hour, 20 minutes up the road. A very sparsely populated part of the United States. So what I would do is to learn, Louisiana culture, find food, music. I would come down to the coastline here in Lake Charles, and my wife worked in the tourism industry, and one thing led to another. We got married and went on active duty. We have two beautiful daughters, and they've been educated all over. My oldest daughter, 17 years old, brags about the 9 different schools she went through as a military dependent. So now my family resides here in Southwest Louisiana, Lake Charles. A lot of reasons for it. Weather's a good one, right? Today is 70 degrees. Don't want to know what it is up in Chicago today. But again, weather was a big one. Family, my wife's family, and I have family that are in this area. And a lot of the veteran programs and a lot of the state initiatives that they do to try to help out veterans, which was very appealing. And it was not, I wouldn't say the main factor, but one of the deciding factors into retiring down here in Louisiana. So that's kind of a quick overview of me and kind of my background. So that kind of leads you in, how does a Yankee from Chicago, Illinois end up here with a bunch of Cajuns in Southwest Louisiana? So a little bit more about Southwest. Let me drill down a little bit and kind of tell you about my we used to call it the operating environment. Let me tell you about the operating environment, which we used to say in the military. It kind of tells you about, the where I live, what our veteran population does, how we're organized, and how we interact with one another. First, I am blessed to live in such a veteran-friendly state. Veterans are very appreciated here. Pretty much every restaurant, every store I go to, I'll get a veterans discount, or they even give military discounts. Even military family members get discounts. And when people find out that, I served in the military, I mean, it's almost uncomfortable, the level of appreciation, the thank you. They'll shake their hand. They appreciate your service. Like I said, it's almost uncomfortable. Because I just don't like a lot of attention, spotlight on me, etc. Our veteran population is 7.4%. So 7.4% of the population here in Southwest Louisiana are veterans. That's 25% higher than the national average. So very, very large veteran population. The state gives a lot of resources and a lot of focus and a lot of benefits to those veterans. Why is that? Because veterans vote. So again, that's why veteran service organizations are very important, especially when you live where I live, where there's a very large concentration of former military folks. We have a voice, we work together, and we're able to talk with our lawmakers to get the resources our veterans earned while on active duty and in combat. A few of the investments that the state of Louisiana has made in our veterans, they're really, I would say, overall, this is a very veteran-friendly state. They really, really go out of their way to invest in the veteran community. Just a few things, I'd like to outline to show that what we do here in Louisiana. Excuse me. First, the new legislation that came in last year, they wanted to entice veterans to retire here in Louisiana. Why is that? Okay, they're great-hearted. They really want to help out veterans. Like I said, very pro-veteran here, very friendly. Yeah, but more importantly, veterans, we come with a paycheck, right? So, you know, the majority of us, we're on some spectrum of disability, right? So we get disability payments from the federal government. For example, for me, I'm a retiree. I get a retiree paycheck from the federal government. That is money and initiative, you know, that is money and resources coming into the state from outside. So again, the state has a program called the Boot, where soldiers that are transitioning, that are currently on active duty, the state will bring them here to Louisiana. We'll entice them. I worked with the cohort that came through a few months ago. We had soldiers and airmen as far as Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. And pretty much for a week, you know, the state nonprofits will wine and dine them. They'll put them up at a fancy hotel, introduce them to Cajun food and culture. We have the American Job Center here that helps veterans find jobs. We pair them with industry. We show them education benefits, et cetera. So the Boot Initiative is a really great program for those currently on active duty. If you're interested, or you're coming up into your either you know, end of tour, or you're retiring, I would ask you to go ahead and, you know, look into the Boot Initiative for Louisiana. A great program, and they'll kind of show you what benefits and what resources are available for here if you retire, if you decide to retire here in Louisiana, the state of Louisiana. A few other things the state does is the Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs is very well resourced. The leadership, they're retired off, so they have a new director that was appointed last year. He just retired as a colonel from, you know, 28 years in the Air Force. All the key leadership for the state VA of Louisiana has some form of military experience and background. So, you know, not only do they support veterans, the state, they are veterans. And then what the state has done is we have various regional offices throughout the state, in every city, that are VA reps for the state. They're there to help you. They're your one-stop shop. When I came off active duty, the first thing I did was go to the Lake Charles VA office. And the representative sat down with me and said, hey, here's all the programs we have. Here's everything available to you. And it was like a menu. I picked the ones I was interested in. He helped me out. He helped me get my free veterans driver's license, my free military license plates, my free fishing license, right? It's Southwest Louisiana, hunting and fishing. That's what we do here. So again, we have very good state representatives that help you out and navigate through the very complex VA system. We also have great tuition and education support. Every one of our universities, every one of our public universities has, they call it a veteran navigator. And it's a guy or a gal who works for the state VA office, and their mission is to help you navigate the complexities of financial assistance, the GI Bill, just help you integrate back into academia. Really great program. And, you know, very few states have something like that, where they make that investment to help that veteran navigate, you know, transitioning to college, helping them out with tuition, schools, other resources that the university has available. There's also other things the state has. We have really good state-of-the-art VA clinics here. Majority of those are funded by a federal level, but a state has a big part of funding and resourcing those. Motor vehicle assistance, like I said, depending on your veteran disability rating, free license plates, driver's license, fishing license, state parks, beautiful state parks here on the bayous, free of charge to veterans. And then finally, we have a really great network of veterans homes. So as we age, which we all will, we have great care facilities for our veterans where we honor, we treat veterans with respect, beautiful homes. I take my daughters there all the time, and my daughters will make cookies, will, you know, hang out, socialize with these veterans who are just so interesting. The veterans home down the road that I work with, we have 7 World War II veterans who just amazing. You could just talk to them all day. Okay, so that's kind of what the operating environment here that I live in Southwest Louisiana. Let me drill down about the association. So The Southwest Louisiana Veterans Association is a nonprofit organization, and we were founded in 2015 by local area veterans coming off active duty. Our motto is for veterans, by veterans. Well, what do we do as an organization? We do several things. First of all, we help out with job training courses, job assistance. We do a lot of that with the American Job Center. So the state, again, like I said, very veteran friendly. They have a representative who does nothing but help veterans find jobs. Every quarter, the parish does a job fair where veterans come first. So what'll happen is it starts at 9 o'clock. Veterans come forward. They say a few things about veterans. Everybody applauds, and the veterans get to go and they get first pick of talking to some of these potential employers. So we do a lot of work with that, helping veterans find employment opportunities, either through a transition or when they come off active duty. Another thing the Southwest Louisiana Veterans Association does is we do time of need assistance. If a veteran is hard on luck, there's an issue, he needs some assistance, we're there. So for an example, is like I said, today, beautiful Southwest Louisiana, 70 degrees and sunny. I'm wearing shorts, enjoying the environment here. Not so much last week. Last week we had a blizzard, and Louisiana called it a blizzard when we get 5 to 8 inches of snow. Second most recorded snowfall ever in the history of Louisiana, and which doesn't sound like a lot if you live up in Chicago, but in Chicago you have snowplows. We don't have snowplows, right? You just can't go to Home Depot and get rock salt to throw on your driveway. We just don't have that here. So pretty much, my daughters were out of school for a week. Roads were locked down. Police were saying stay off the roads. They need it for first responders. Unfortunately, we had a few deaths, and they had to open up a few shelters, warming shelters, just to protect our population. So what do we do as the association? We have a closed Facebook group. We send out a note to say, hey, if you need assistance, we're here for you. Hey, if your car doesn't start, if your heater goes out, whatever, hey, we are here for you. So again, in time assistance is very important. We also do events like monthly socials where veterans get together. We establish networks, socialize. We also do annual events, barbecue, Veterans Day barbecue. We do golf tournaments. We do an auction. And then last thing we do is we support a lot of other nonprofit organizations, not only military, veteran, but we also support a lot of other just standard nonprofits. And I'll talk about those coming up here. But most importantly, what we do in the association is we have a network where veterans can communicate, talk to one another, and assist. That was one of the hard things for me coming off active duty. If I ever had a problem, I could always go to my first sergeant. Hey, first sergeant, I need to talk to somebody. Or, I would talk to, my civilian deputy that I had next door to me. If I ever had an issue or I had a question, I always go able to talk to him. In the middle of the night, if I needed something, there was always a network. I was never, ever alone. When I was stationed in Honduras, when I was stationed in Korea, when I was in Afghanistan, I always had a network of military brothers and sisters I could reach into. And I never felt alone. And I always knew somebody had my back. And that's what we try to replicate in the Southwest Louisiana Veterans Association. We want to have that same network where it's transparent. So when a soldier who comes off active duty, he has that network. So instead of, you have a question and you go to your squad leader, hey, now you go to one of the association members. Or if you feel depressed and, want to harm yourself, instead of talking to first sergeant, you have one of us, so that's where we try to replicate, and that's where we see the need here within our veteran population. We can't do it alone. There's a lot of nonprofit organizations, veteran service organizations, even military formations here in Louisiana that we work and collaborate with. It's important that we have a network. It's almost like a network of networks, we call it. But collaboration is key. We want to maximize those resources that each of our respective organizations have, and then get that support, get that assistance to our veterans and help them in their time of need. So a few of the groups that we work with, first of all, I'll start with active duty and reserve units that we have here in Southwest Louisiana. So as I said earlier, I was stationed up at Fort Johnson, which is about an hour and 20 minutes north of where I live, kind of like in west central Louisiana. Fort Johnson and their leadership are great partners. The new commanding general came down here a few months ago. We hosted a big reception for him and his key staff. And, you know, the mayor was there personally. The mayor pledged whatever we can do as a city of Lake Charles for Fort Johnson. The answer is yes, just ask it. What Fort Johnson has done is all the various cities in their area, they have partnered unit. So we have a partner brigade that we work with. It's like our adopted unit. They come down here to our meetings, and then we go up there. 2 weeks ago, we went up there, and during their sergeant's time training, we brought them their lunch. So here it is, a bunch of Cajun folks from the Gulf went up north, and we catered them a big jambalaya meal. You know, good jambalaya, good desserts, bread pudding, everything. And we give back to those soldiers. Last year, we did a festival where we specifically honored this brigade. We took them up on stage, you know, during one of our great festivals we have here in Louisiana, and introduced them. And just the welcome they got was amazing. They had free crawfish. They ate so much crawfish, and we couldn't charge. Nobody would take any money from them. You know, they were just given all the crawfish they could eat. It was amazing seeing all these soldiers just devouring crawfish. Never knew how to open them up until we showed them how to do it. So that's Fort Johnson up north. Here on the Gulf, we have a Coast Guard safety detachment. It's a small unit. It's led by a 05, a lieutenant colonel, and her organization is about 100 folks. And what they do is they do all the safety ports, basically working, you know, to keep the maritime safety. Lake Charles has the 10th largest port in the United States. A lot of petrochemical commodities come in and out through that port. So they're very important. We do a lot of work with them. We support them. We support their families. And the last one is Louisiana National Guard. Louisiana National Guard, great military formation. When I was in the 10th Mountain Division many years ago, we worked side by side with them in Iraq. War fighters, true war fighters, and great patriots. We're there for them too. We support them when they mobilize, when they do their training. When they had their new building facility last year, we were there, you know, as part of the opening. So again, those are the work we do with active and reserve formations here in Southwest Louisiana. Next, I'll talk about the Veteran Service Organization, the VSOs that we deal with every day. Like I said, there's a lot of great veteran organizations out there. They do a lot of stuff. What we want to do is maximize our capabilities. There's some things, some organizations do well than others. So we try to maximize that. The one way here in the city of Lake Charles is we do that is the mayor for the last, I'd say about the last decade or two. The mayor has the Lake Charles Mayor's Armed Forces Commission. I'm also a committee member of that commission. What the commission does, it's basically like a community of interest for all things veterans in the area. You have representatives from the American Legion, from the Southwest Louisiana Veterans Association, VFW, Daughters of American Revolution. You even have private businesses. You have the Lake Charles Downtown Business Association. They have a representative there. And what that organization does is it provides situational awareness and understanding of what all these various groups have going on in the area. I spoke earlier about the Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs. We do a lot of work with them. We help them support job fairs. We help them do veteran outreach. We help them with the medical, getting information out to the community. And then we also work a lot with the legacy veteran support organizations, American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Those are the legacy organizations that we work with. And they do great stuff. They do advocacy. They have reach into federal lawmakers in Washington, D.C. They have a lot of resources, and they just have a bigger scope, kind of like this platform, where they have a larger audience, not just here in one part of one state. We also have a lot of non-traditional veterans organizations I work with, or the association work with. We have the Southwest Louisiana Veterans Home Ancillary Committee. So said that we have a state-run VA nursing home, and we do a lot of work with them. We do fundraisers. We have a committee that meets where we talk about, hey, how could we honor these veterans, in their advanced age, and treat them with honor and dignity and respect. Veteran Farmer Coalition. There's a lot of rural areas here, and there's a organization that works with veterans and help you become a farmer. And then finally, we love Mardi Gras here. There's a Mardi Gras crew. It's a bunch of folks that get together and enjoy Mardi Gras throughout the year. And it's a veterans only crew. And they raised about $8,000 over the holidays. And they used that to give toys to children. It was 64 children that they were needy children that they were able to give toys to. Amazing, all the toys they got. And then finally, we do a lot of collaboration and work with the private sector. I would say probably one of the things I could pass off to folks out there on the show is working with those private organizations. They do a lot of stuff, and they have good hearts, and they want to give back. Also, they like the recognition. The public recognition works very, very, very well for them. One organization, they do an event called the Coffee for the Courageous, and one day, every second Saturday of every month, it's a local liquor store where they open it up early. You don't drink liquor at 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday, but they have coffee laid out. They have donuts. They have just a venue where all of us can have a cup of coffee, eat a breakfast burrito, and just talk and connect. That store also gives a veterans discount. So every time I want to get my good Italian wine, I always go to that one liquor store, and that's where I get, my stuff, because they take care of veterans by doing not only the coffee, but giving discounts. Our local restaurants, they support monthly socials. And then finally, a lot of veteran-owned organizations and businesses that we deal with on a daily basis. So that's kind of the organizations we deal with and collaborate here in Southwest Louisiana. So, to conclude, again, that's kind of the overview of what we do in Southwest Louisiana Veterans Association and some of the great organizations and initiatives we have here in Louisiana. Please look us up on our website, www.swlaveterans.org. Again, swlaveterans.org. Take a look on us on our webpage. Hit us up on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you and see what great items and initiatives you have going on in your respective parts of the world. It's all about learning. So again, thank you very much. Have a great evening. It was an honor to speak with you. Good night.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618. Market, advertise.
I'm Ken Jennings. All of us here at Jeopardy want to thank you for your service to our nation. We truly honor and appreciate you, and what's more, we're looking for contestants like you to play on our show. So head to Jeopardy.com now and take the Anytime test, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon right here on the Alex Trebek stage.
Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to America's Heroes Group. My name is Jennifer Ruth Green, and it's an honor to be here with you tonight on a Wednesday night. Really excited to be here and just share a little bit tonight. I want to talk about a charge for unity in a changing world. I was thinking about the topic and really felt like there was a clear need for us to connect as humans in a space where things are different. We just experienced a peaceful transfer of power, which is exciting. That doesn't always happen across the world, but we in the United States were able to experience that, and that's great. But the people have spoken, and the transition of power has transferred ideology to ideology. And we have two political parties in America, two main political parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. And Democrat power has just shifted to Republican power across the branches of our government. And that has created a lot of change. And in this time of change, our country seems to be a bit divided. And when we look at the statistics and the numbers, as far as voting goes, you have about half of the country who supports our current president. And you have about half of the country who is a bit frustrated and angry about the fact that our current president is our current president. And so that means 1 out of every 2 people, as we look around our country, look around our environments, look around our neighborhoods, are really processing that they're going to have a difficult time across the next 4 years. And that's a reality that we as leaders need to be aware of. My name is Jennifer Ruth Green, and I am the founder and CEO of Battle Proven Leadership. And at Battle Proven Leadership, we take the opportunity to build new and rising leaders as we help corporations, as we help people to grow into these spaces where they can have access and influence. And so we talk through practical training tips and create opportunities for people to know how to effectively just jump right into the leadership seat once they have the position and ultimately earn the opportunity to lead the people that they're with. And so one of the things that I think is important for us as leaders is to understand and learn how to read a room. In this particular situation, when we talk about the change and transition of power, specifically in the United States right now that we're experiencing, and we look around the room, we see that about 1 out of every 2 people is not pleased with the way the country has decided. But at the end of the day, living in this democratic republic, the country has spoken, the voters have spoken, and through our electoral college, through the confirmation of the Senate, we have new leadership. And that is something that we as leaders have to understand. And although we are in a place where there's discord as leaders, we are called to lead, and we cannot simply abdicate our responsibility because it's hard. And we can't abdicate our humanity because there are others who disagree with us. We have to be able to understand how to work in a changing environment, how to lead in a changing environment, and how to help people be impactful. So how do we move forward and unite, but also how do we move forward and create and support change? And I don't just mean the change that has started or the change that has started a situation in our current, for example, the administration itself. We want to support the administration. We want to provide opportunities for America as a whole to do well as leaders. But I think there's a need to support change by changing the environment that we rest in. So there's an internal change that needs to happen in order to accept the outcomes if we don't necessarily agree with them. There's a change that has to happen as a leader to lead people who think differently than you. So there are a change of mindsets. But if there's something that you feel as a leader needs to be different, then we have to be able to know how to externally create change within the confines of the environment that we're sitting in. And those are some of the things we want to talk about tonight. Just 4 short lessons tonight that hopefully you can take back, look at, and have a really clear vision for how to be impactful in this space. I had the honor and privilege to attend and graduate from the United States Air Force Academy. It's located in Colorado Springs, and it's a 4-year training institution where the United States Air Force has a curriculum focused on building leaders, building the world's best air and space force leaders. And so during that time of our course training, we are responsible for all of our academics, and we have a highly impacted or a high engineering training program. So whether that's kind of engineering, aeronautical, astronautical, civil. We had a lot of foreign language classes. We had English, just a broad spectrum of education to help us be more impactful in our space. And so sometimes we joked, we would say we were so well-rounded, we were pointless because we were jacks of all trades, but masters of none. But in that training, during that time, we also had, beyond academics, we had physical training, so PE classes and other things like that. And we had military training. Obviously, every day we had to wear uniforms and things like that. But our freshman year, we went through basic training, and that's where you learn how to fold your clothes and salute smartly and wear your uniform and all of those things. You learn how to march. You learn how to do all of the things that military members, that help build the discipline in that space. And one of the things that was required of us was a course called Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape, SEER training. And without going too deep into it, my classmates and I spent multiple weeks in the mountains of Colorado after being trained by professional survival experts in the military. And they left us out there with scarce food resources and the responsibility to evade and not get caught in the middle of the woods. And so we had to use all of our training, all of our skills, camouflage paint on our faces, and go through these environments to basically figure out how to exist in a warfare environment and not get caught if that was the objective. Obviously, if we wanted to have survival training and we were waiting to get picked up by friendly forces, we wanted to be in a posture where we could create an environment for us to be able to do well. So at the end of the day, it was a really unique opportunity for us. And I learned a lot through that particular training. And one of the things that was quite unique was learning more about a man named Lance Sijon. Lance Sijon was a captain who was a United States Air Force Academy grad and the first and only, to my knowledge, Medal of Honor winner. He was flying the F-4, which is a fighter jet. He was flying it in Vietnam after graduating from the academy. And he ended up having a malfunction with knobs, and his plane ultimately went down. And when it went down into the jungle, for about 2 days, he had loose communications, not very clear, not very common, but communications with friendly forces. And during that time, forces were sent to rescue him, and a couple of people tried, but it was difficult to get to him in the middle of the jungle. But in his crash, he suffered a fractured skull, a mangled right hand, and he had a compound fracture in his left leg. So he could barely move, but he was able to scoot along. And in this scooting, he scooted and evaded enemy capture for 46 days. 46 days. And that was his survival story. He ultimately got captured, and at the age of 25, ended up succumbing to his injuries at the Hanoi Hilton, and ended up passing away. But he was an exemplar for the class of 2002 at the Air Force Academy. And the exemplar is somebody who exemplifies the traits that your classmates want to exhibit. And there was tenacity, there was bravery, there was a certain skill and airmanship in his ability to operate and land and be alive after a plane crash. And for all of these reasons, they chose him as their exemplar. And so when you choose someone as an exemplar, you wear their name, their last name on a patch. Your entire class does. You invite their family to come out, and you have a dinner with them, and you spend time and connect and honor their airman or their service member. And so it was a really interesting time to learn about kind of the warrior ethos that Lance P. Saijan, Captain Saijan, exhibited. And not only did the class of 2002 make them their exemplar, but also there is a dorm, a building named at the Air Force Academy after him based on, these heroic feats. One of the things that I find interesting about him was that he, Captain Saijan, after he was captured and was in the Hanoi Hilton, he even escaped. With all of his injuries, he escaped and he left, and he was captured after several hours, recaptured by the Vietnamese. And this man was amazing. And why do I tell you about Lance P. Saijan? Not only because he was an amazing person, but I think the tenacity that he brought and the willingness that he brought to his environment to commit to change, to commit to say, hey, my circumstances do not dictate my outcome. My circumstances do not dictate my opportunities. My circumstances do not dictate the rest of my life. He was committed to creating change in the environment that he was in. And he said, these are my circumstances, but they don't have to stay that way. And so a couple of lessons that I learned from studying POWs, specifically in Vietnam, are kind of the basis and foundation of what I want to talk about tonight. 4 quick lessons, and we'll go over them pretty simply as far as leadership goes. And then there are a couple more stories that I'd like to share. But the first thing is commit to finishing strong. Commit to finishing strong. When we look at Captain Saijan, after he received grave injuries, after he tried to call for 2 days and was able to see rescue forces come in and look at him, and he could see them and he could hear them, and he knew at certain times that the anti-aircraft fire that the enemy forces were providing, and headed towards and targeting the people who were rescuing him, they were coming in to rescue him, and he was trying to be strategic about when he could come out of the jungle and attempt to be rescued and be visible, but he didn't want to put other people in harm's way. So he was balancing his own personal need for survival, but also the colleagues and the fellow service members who were coming to rescue him, balancing their needs as well in his mind. And so when we think about his commitment, he didn't just lay down, roll over, and say, this is it, I can do nothing else. Again, I remind you, he had a fractured skull, a mangled right hand, and a compound fracture in his left leg. And he scooted himself to say, how can I get to food? How can I get rescued? How can I communicate? How can I evade? And he did all of this for 46 days. Over 6 weeks, the man said, I am going to survive. And he said, my circumstances do not dictate the outcomes. My environment is not going to take hold of me. And so he said, regardless of what the environment has done, I am going to keep moving. And so the fact that Lance P. Saijan was committed to finishing strong is a lesson for us in great change. Captain Saijon's experiences changed, but you know what didn't change? His tenacity and willingness to finish strong. And I admire that about him. And when we look at the difficulties that we're facing and the change that we see, commit to finishing strong. You can't just roll over and say, it's different, I don't like it, I can't do anything about it. Commit to finishing strong. The summer between my freshman and sophomore year at the Air Force Academy, we were recognizing the impacts of September 11th. September 11th, I was a freshman at the Air Force Academy. And during that time, our world changed. Not just my immediate circumstances, but my world changed. We had a pretty open campus prior to September 11th, but that specific day, everything changed. We went on lockdown. We had 24-hour guards at multiple doors. We only had 1 or 2 entry points. We had gates put up everywhere. We were not able to, we had to control our wear of civilian clothes. And it was a really big deal because we had to figure out how we could operate in our new circumstances. The world at large had changed. Flying had changed. The posture of America had changed on a world stage. We were at war in 2002. 2001, we were operating under executive order. Congress had given, the president the opportunity to have broader authorities. And so we had set troops out, but in 2002, we effectively declared war. And so the war on terror began. And when we look at that circumstance, here we are as 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 18 to 23, and we're looking at the world from a different perspective. And we know that as soon as we graduate, we are going into combat. There is no option. This is a long-standing war, and we knew that we hadn't found our enemies. We knew that we had a lot of work to do. We knew that we were trying to neutralize threats, and we knew that at the end of our graduation, we would be in a war zone. And so the summer between my freshman and sophomore year, my circumstances were different than they were a year prior. And so I don't know what drove me to this. I can't say that I was incredibly mature. I can't say that I was incredibly focused. I was just curious. But I remember spending a summer reading about POW experiences. And when I was little, I found a book, and it was called Great Escapes of World War II. And I saw a book that had, talked about escape, where there were 3 tunnels built in Germany, Tom, Dick, and Harry, and where several POWs were able to get out and escape. There are a couple movies made about it, The Great Escape. And it was just a really interesting book to me. Small stories and probably about 10 pages on this particular escape. So I remember thinking, wow, the POW experience. So I started looking and found a lot of literature on the POW experience in Vietnam. And I realized that some people were there for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. People sat in these dark, dank rooms with rarely, if ever, any contact with fellow service members. They didn't have clear opportunities to communicate with one another openly. They had horrible living conditions, whether it was lice-filled or whether it was bugs or whether it was food that had been, that was not sanitary, and food that was provided in meager portions. And people were starving and they were bony. And the intent of the enemy was to get them to look at America and say that America was horrible. And they wanted them to go on camera. They wanted them to say that and denounce, the American way of life. And there's a famous story where serving as POWs, they had gotten several members of the military to be willing to sit for a press conference. And they had given them prefabricated answers to say and to read. Basically, our captors are treating us well. The Vietnamese are great. We're well taken care of. And then there was a POW who got the chance to be on this. I was going to say live stream, but on this show, this propaganda effort. And while on TV, he began to use Morse code, and he began to blink Morse code, long, short, short, long, short, short, with his blinks, and convey a message, basically telling the American military and the American public that the situation was dire, and providing information about the POW camp. And in the midst of a hard time, in the midst of a changing environment, he said, I am not going to sit here and allow my environment to dictate my circumstances. I am going to figure out a way to promote change. I'm going to figure out a way to communicate the needs that I have. And so one of the things that I think is a second point that I'd love to share about is kind of owning your own patch of grass. So number one, we talked about commit to finishing strong. Number two, own your own patch of grass. This man was isolated most of the time, didn't have a lot of opportunity to do anything other than get physically beaten, get starved, be isolated, and have this difficult circumstances. But you know what he said? He said, what can I do? What can I do within the confines of my environment, within the confines of the rules? How can I convey my message, and how can I create change? And I couldn't tell you the man's name, and I apologize for not having that tonight. But one thing that was very clear was that he did not roll over and say, I can't do anything. You know what he said? He said, this is my patch of grass. I have one chance. I have one opportunity. This is what I can do. I can blink. I can blink in Morse code. And if they give me the opportunity, so help me, that's what I'm going to do. And he fought for the opportunity to get the chance to share his truth with the world. And that's exactly what he did. And I appreciate and respect the fact that he owned his patch of grass and said, hey, it's not someone else's opportunity. It's not someone else's responsibility. It is mine, and I'm going to be the one to take it. And he stood up and said, I'm going to own my patch of grass. So number one, commit to finishing strong. Number two, own your patch of grass. Number three, I would say believe in the people around you. There's a Major Fred Cherry. He was a pilot. He was the highest ranking African-American POW that was captured in the Vietnam War. And he was largely quiet about his POW experience after he got out of Vietnam. And in fact, when the POWs were released, there were 191 POWs that were released successfully from the Hanoi Hilton when the Vietnam conflict was declared, to be over. And so Major Fred Cherry, as an African-American, he got a lot of attention. And the Vietnamese would tell him often, they would say, hey, tell us what you know. Help us, because America is a horrible place. You can't even sit in the same diner as your counterparts who are here with you. You can't even go to the same clubs, the same bars. You can't drink at the same installations. You can't drink out of the same water fountain even. Like, not only do you have segregated recreation, you have segregated life necessities. You have segregated bathrooms. Your country doesn't love you. Your country doesn't even like you. So why do you hold this great value for a country that doesn't treat you the same? And you know what Major Fred Cherry did? I can tell you what he did. He stood strong and he didn't crack. He didn't break. He never succumbed to the thought that our country was horrible. He said, there are people around me who are surviving. There are people back home. There are people at the base where I was flying out of that are counting on me not to tell them of the security posture, not to tell them where the fences are located, not to tell them how many guards we have and what time they change shift, not to tell them, our current capabilities in our aircraft. It's our responsibility. It's my responsibility to have faith in my fellow service members, because my fellow service members want me to be alive. They want to stay alive, and it's our job to work together. We are a team regardless. And Major Fred Cherry did not crack under the difficulties of his circumstances. He did not allow his circumstances to dictate his outcome. And in fact, he believed in the team of people around him so that he could make great progress, so that he could return alive. And there was great opposition for him. There was great change. There was great difficulty, but he was committed to being unified with his teammates. And so number one, we've talked about being willing and committed to finishing strong. And we talked about Lance P. Saigon. Number 2, we talked about owning your patch of grass. The gentleman who blinked his way to informing the United States about the circumstances that he was in and not saying it's someone else's job. And then we talked about Major Fred Cherry believing in the team of people around you. And he was absolutely committed to that. And lastly, I would say be proactive with your access and influence. Every one of these people had the opportunity to say, I'm going to roll over and die in the Hanoi Hilton. And I can tell you what they did collectively. They invented a tap code where they had a 5x5 grid and effectively assigned all of the letters A through Z, and they left out one letter that had a double sound. I think it was the Q. And they used the K because the K and the Q had similar sounds. I could be wrong. Someone can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure. So 5x5 grid. And so they would tap 1 across, 1 down. Tap, tap. That's an A. 1 across, 2 down. Or let's go 1 across, or 2 across, 1 down would be a B. And so it would be bop, bop, bop. And then you would have a B. And they have invented this in isolation. Somebody invented it and then taught the tap code to their neighbors across the neighboring prison lines, across the neighboring prison walls. And they were able to tap and communicate all hours of the night without using their voices, as they would have their ears pressed up to the wall. And these people were committed to communicating, and they were proactive with their access and influence. And they said, hey, this is the senior leader. This is the chain of command. Do not break. You're going to go into a hard session. It's going to be difficult. You need some food. We're going to leave some notes for you in the bathroom. And they said the access and influence, they were able to establish a hierarchy. They were able to establish discipline. They were able to establish opportunities for themselves to have hope in the midst of a changing environment. And so when I think about our unity and our need to operate in this changing environment, how do we create change? How do we stick together? How do we press forward in the midst of a place where half of us don't agree with the other half? How do we do that? Well, we lead. We lead with integrity, and we lead by doing these 4 things that we talked about. Number 1, commit to finishing strong. If you have to scoot your way to evade the enemy for over 6 weeks, you do it. Believe in the team of people around you. If you want to be like Major Fred Cherry and say, hey, they're counting on me and I'm counting on them, and I'm going to do my best to create the change that is required. I'm going to hold strong, hold fast to the truths and principles that I believe in. Do it as a leader. Number 3, own your own patch of grass. There's a man who blinked his way to helping people understand the environment and the depravity that these people were living in. And he conveyed messages and helped drive change. And then lastly, be proactive with your access and influence. Create the structure, create the infrastructure, use what you have accessible to you within the confines of your responsibility to add value to your environment. And when I look at the POWs of Vietnam, they had a very difficult environment. It was very, very difficult. And we are living in a place where it's certainly not as difficult as that, but change is real. And I would charge you to take stock of what you can do, because we are not helpless and we have a clear opportunity to be impactful. I'd like to thank you so much for taking a listen to America's Heroes Group tonight. I am Jennifer Ruth Green, but I thank Mr. Kelly. I thank all of the people who are behind the scenes making this happen, because it is an incredible time for us as Americans to come together. It's an incredible time for us as military members to understand how we can be more impactful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.